Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Weekly GCap, the only source you'll ever need to catch up on all the gaming news from the last week. As always, we got quite a couple stories to go through, so let's go ahead and get right into it. First things first, Dead Island 2 released last week, and it managed to sell 1 million copies in the first 3 days, which means it's already outselling the original one. It honestly makes me really happy seeing this game do so well. I've said it many times at this point. I've been waiting for this game since it was announced back in 2014 with that announcement trailer, you know. So it just feels good seeing that the game is like finally out and people are loving it, and it seems like it's drawing in even more people than the original did. I actually already beat the game. I literally beat it in the span of one day. I couldn't put it down, and yes, it is like an 8 to 12 hour game. My playthrough took me like, I think 9 or 10 hours or something like that, but yeah, I literally beat it in one day. If you haven't picked it up yet, I highly recommend it. It is so good. But anyway, for our next story, Sony has acquired Firewalk Studios. This coming from PlayStation Blog, quote, "Welcoming Firewalk Studios to the PlayStation Studios family. I'm excited to announce that we've expanded our relationship with Firewalk Studios and are thrilled to welcome them to PlayStation Studios. Firewalk is home to a remarkably talented team of creatives who have launched some of gaming's most celebrated experiences, and they're already hard at work on their first original AAA multiplayer game for PlayStation. Since announcing our publishing partnership with Probably Monsters and Firewalk in 2021, we continue to be impressed by the team's ambitions to build a modern multiplayer game that connects players in new and innovative ways." But trust me, we're going to talk about that one in a second. "The studio shares our passion for creating inspiring worlds grounded in exceptional gameplay, and we want to continue to invest in their mission. We're excited for Firewalk to bring their technical and creative expertise to PlayStation Studios to help grow our live service operations and deliver something truly special for gamers. Please join me in welcoming Firewalk," end quote. And then there's a quote below from the studio head of Firewalk. It's just the typical stuff, you know, just like expressing their excitement about the acquisition and the future for their studio and stuff. But as I mentioned as we were reading that, the thing that we were going to talk about in a second, yeah, this studio is primarily focused on making multiplayer slash like, you know, like live service type games, which honestly, I expect that to be the reason that Sony even acquired them in the first place, given, you know, if you've been keeping up with Sony news and stuff like that lately, they've been making quite the push towards live service gaming and multiplayer gaming as a whole. I mean, heck, just look at some of their bigger IPs that they're turning into multiplayer franchises. For example, we have The Last of Us. There's going to be like a dedicated multiplayer game there, and then there's been rumors of a potential multiplayer like MMO type Horizon game similar to something like Monster Hunter. I'm very excited to see what the studio ends up working on, but as soon as we know more, obviously I'll let you guys know. And for our next story, Miyamoto ended up dropping some hints about future Nintendo movies. This coming from Video Games Chronicle, quote, "Miyamoto drops future Nintendo movie hints. Nintendo's Shigeru Miyamoto has suggested that the company is planning its next movie adaptation following the highly successful performance of the Super Mario Bros. Movie." Speaking in a Japanese interview with Nikkei this week, translated by WGC, Mario designer Miyamoto hinted that the company's next movie adaptation could focus on different Nintendo characters. Quote, "Please keep an eye on our next production," Miyamoto said. "This time Mario was the focus, but Nintendo is like a talent agency. We have many other entertainers on our roster," the company fellow added. Although Miyamoto did not disclose any further details, he said there are various ways to develop characters for the screen, including characters that are suitable for film and characters that are well known. It doesn't really surprise me that Nintendo is looking to do more with their IPs in terms of getting them on the big screen, and you know, it honestly wouldn't surprise me if they went a step further and maybe, I don't know, did what Sony's been doing with their IPs, like for example, The Last of Us show that just happened a couple months ago. There is truly an endless amount of possibilities. I mean, we could get a Donkey Kong show, a Zelda movie, a Metroid show, or a Metroid movie. Could you imagine if we got like a Super Smash Bros. Movie or something? Like, dude, I would be there in the front row, midnight release. Like, I would be there for that. As was said in the article, he didn't hint at anything specific, so, you know, we don't have any inside looks or peeks at what they could be working on next. At this point, it's all just speculation, and considering the fact that the Mario movie just came out, I'm sure it's going to be a while until we hear about a new movie or a new show or, you know, just new plans for other properties coming from Nintendo. I'm really excited for the future Nintendo in terms of, like, movies and shows and just, like, other mediums like that outside of video games. Is there any specific Nintendo IPs that you would like to see turned into a movie or show? Definitely let me know down in the comments. But anyways, for our next story, Metacritic has responded to the review bombing. This is from Eurogamer. The article starts out by addressing the reason why Horizon Burning Shores is getting review bombed, which we're not going to be talking about here due to spoilers, just in case you haven't played it yet, but we're planning to. But then there's a quote below that from Metacritic/fandom directly. So, quote, "Fandom is a place of belonging for all fans, and we take online trust and safety very seriously across all our sites, including Metacritic. Metacritic is aware of the abusive and disrespectful reviews of Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores, and we have a moderation system in place to track violations of our terms of use. Our team reviews each and every report of abuse, including but not limited to racist, sexist, homophobic insults to other users, etc., and if violations occur, the reviews are removed. We are currently evolving our processes and tools to introduce stricter moderation in the coming months," end quote. So let me just start out by saying that I absolutely hate the concept of review bombing. It happens way too often on so many different sites, whether that be on something like Metacritic or like, you know, dislike ratios on YouTube, or if you go into the App Store, Store, the Play Store, and you see a certain app sitting at like 2 stars when it was at 5 stars just a couple of weeks ago, just because there were some controversial additions in an update or something like that, even though half the people review bombing it haven't even played it and are just hopping onto the bandwagon because they saw it trending on Twitter. It honestly ticks me off, and it just kind of feeds into the whole thing that I'm always preaching of, well, it seems like nowadays people on the internet are just incapable of forming their own opinions. It seems like the only opinions that people have nowadays are either A, the ones that their favorite content creators have, or B, just, I don't know, whatever opinion is popular in the media at the moment, and that's what they roll with. It's always one of those two options. It's never anything in between, and it's genuinely sad. Furthermore, it's not just sad, but rather, I view it as pathetic. Now, while I'm glad that Metacritic is cracking down, my only question is, how are they gonna do this? I mean, one of the main ideas that I had was, well, if you don't know how the App Store or Play Store works, basically, you can't review an app until you have it downloaded, right? So I was thinking Metacritic could do something similar, because obviously the App Store and Play Store have things in check that can check as to whether you've actually played the game, if you downloaded it, etc. So maybe Metacritic could do something like that, where, say, we're talking about a game like Horizon Forbidden West, and then you have to link your Metacritic profile to, like, your PlayStation account, so then it can verify, okay, did this person actually purchase this game? Did they put some hours into this game? Did they unlock certain things? Did they actually play this DLC, etc.? And then from there, if your account passes those checks and it says, like, yes, you did actually play it, then you would be allowed to leave a review. That's the only way that I feel like, but even then, like, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, you know, there's gonna be those people that end up finding some way around that, or even then, like, you know how people on the internet are, even if they spend their, like, hard-earned money on it, they'll still sit there and review bomb it for absolutely no reason besides, well, that's the popular opinion at the moment. Again, it's stupid and pathetic. However, when it comes to solutions that could help crack down on the review bombing issue on Metacritic, because it's very prevalent across many different releases and platforms and such, I feel like that is one of the best ways that they could go about resolving the issue. Otherwise, I'm not really sure. I mean, when it comes to Metacritic, usually I just pay attention to the critic scores anyway, because most of the user scores are either incoherent, they're review bombed, or they're just, I don't know, nonsensical and not really reliable anyway. But even then, I never really go on Metacritic just to look at reviews. I mean, if I'm gonna play a game, I actually tend to, you know, veer away from reviews so I can go in as blind as possible, form my own opinion on the game, enjoy it. I usually don't interact with any media like that until after I've completed the game, so I don't know, my only solution would be to have people stop being so immature, but again, it's the internet, so that's kind of impossible, right? Anyways, for our next story, there was a new ROG handheld showcase announced. So this coming from ROG directly on Twitter, quote, "The wait is almost over. We are thrilled to announce that we will be unveiling our ROG Ally specifications, availability, and pricing on May 11th at 10 a.m. Eastern. Save the date and tune in live on ROG's YouTube and Twitch, hashtag ROG, hashtag ROG Ally." I'm gonna be honest, I don't know a whole lot about the ROG Ally yet. I mean, it's looking to be a competitor to the Steam Deck, except it'll be like a higher end machine. I was kind of looking at some of the specs for it and, like, you know, some of the things that we've been hearing about it. I'm assuming this to come in, you know, at a bit of a higher price point than the Steam Deck. I was assuming maybe like $800 minimum. It could maybe, and I mean maybe, sneak in at like the $700 to $750 mark, but I expect this to kind of be like the Steam Deck, where there's different tiers and variants of the system, and then it like maybe starts at 800 and then 900 and then like 1000 for the highest end model, which honestly, for a high end handheld machine like that, considering how much higher end PCs cost to usually make, that wouldn't be a bad price. In fact, I'd say that's actually a pretty good price. I'm also loving how many handheld machines have been hitting the market lately. There's gonna be a nice, healthy amount of competition there between something like Steam Deck and the Switch and now ROG Ally. I'm definitely very excited for the future of handheld gaming, especially with new rumors of Sony possibly stepping back into the ring, but you know, that's a whole other can of worms and conversation for another day. But anyway, as soon as the showcase happens and as soon as we know more and some official details, I'll definitely let you guys know. And for our next story, this one's a bit shorter, but there was a Final Fantasy 16 PS5 bundle announced. It's not anything special, don't get your hopes up. So basically, for the American version, and I'll specify why that's important in a minute, but for the American version, it's just going to be a PS5, and that's it. There's going to be like a copy of Final Fantasy 16 in there, but that's going to be it. However, if you live in Japan, you'll be getting a special controller, special faceplates for the PS5. Like, come on, why isn't that available to the US? Like, can't we get a cool bundle like that? I mean, maybe, sure, because the amount of units required to, you know, like, meet demand over in Japan is lower than the US by, you know, quite a large margin. I mean, still, couldn't the US folks get something cool like that? I mean, there hasn't really been any special PS5 editions that I can think of up to this point, right? Like, we've had multiple bundles, like, you know, your God of War, the Ratchet & Clank, Horizon Forbidden West, but I don't think any of them have actually been special in terms of, like, different faceplates, different controllers and stuff. And now that we're finally getting one, it's exclusive to Japan, so I would almost be tempted to, like, buy a Japan console, but then, like, take the faceplates off of it and put it onto my US PS5, and same thing with the controller. I'm actually not sure if you could pair a Japanese controller with a US console. That's something I'd actually, I would spend the $500 just to try it out. But regardless, if you live in Japan, definitely be looking forward to that, and I would highly recommend picking it up because I know it won't be around forever. And for our next story, Nintendo will be at Gamescom. This coming from Gamescom Twitter account, quote, "We are excited to announce that Nintendo will be exhibiting at hashtag Gamescom 2023. Many more exhibitors will follow in the coming weeks. Stay tuned," end quote. And then below that, there's a picture that states that the event will be happening between August 23rd and 27th. So, you know, that's pretty cool. You know, Nintendo skipped out on E3. However, they've been going to all sorts of other events besides that one. They were at PAX East. Now they're going to Gamescom. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what was happening there. I mean, again, they did say they were skipping E3 just because they didn't have any more big releases for the year after Zelda, but, like, come on, they're going to all of these other events. It looks kind of shady, man. I don't know, I'm just a butthurt boomer. I really miss E3. So yeah, this one's still literally 4 months out, but you know, I guess it's cool that they announced it a while. And speaking of events that are still like 3 or 4 months out, THQ Nordic also announced their own showcase. And similarly, this one is quite far out. This coming from THQ Nordic directly, quote, "Another year, another lineup. THQ Nordic is at it again. Our digital showcase 2023 will air on Friday, August 11, 2023 at 12 p.m. PDT/3 p.m. EDT/8 p.m. BST/9 p.m. CEST/10 p.m. EEST. I don't know what all those different time zones mean, if I'm going to be honest. Handy Games will once again start off with a pre-show to give you a taste of their titles. This will take us right to the THQ Nordic Showcase, which will serve up a whole host of game announcements and project updates. This year's showcase will not only include world premiere announcements, it will also include news and reveals for previously announced games. Without giving too much away, if you want to learn more about some of our titles like Alone in the Dark, Outcast 2, and Shrine 5, we highly recommend you tune in and check out the showcase, end quote. And like I said, I know this one's a little far out, but I guess they just wanted to announce it a while just so people were, you know, aware of it. Personally, I love THQ. I've been a huge fan of their games since the PS2 generation, and to this day, I still am. So I'll definitely be tuning into the showcase, and we'll be doing a recap here of it as always, you know, in 4 months. Got a couple quick stories here for you. So Zelda Tears of the Kingdom previews have gone live, so if you want to see some gameplay, get some first impressions of it, you can go check those out, watch some more gameplay of it. This game is only like 2 weeks out. It's crazy how close we are to the game's release, and yet I feel like we know so little about it, even after the previews and the reviews and all the trailers. But hey, that's just the way I like it. I like to go into games 110% blind. Then another quick story for you guys. Jedi Survivor reviews have gone live. Right now it's sitting at an 86 on Metacritic, so you know, that's pretty good. That's about what I would have expected, anywhere from like an 85 to a 90, so I'm glad to see that it's doing good. Anyone that knows me knows I'm a huge nerd and I'm a huge fan of the Star Wars IP as a whole, whether it be books, games, movies, etc. So it always warms my heart seeing a good Star Wars game come out and get received well. And as always, I'd like to keep you guys updated with, you know, like subscription services, whether that be Xbox Game Pass, Nintendo Switch Online, or PS Plus Essential Extra Premium. Well, today I have an update on the May PS Plus Essential games. The PS Plus Essential games for the month of May are Grid Legends, Chivalry 2, and Descenders. So unlike the PS Plus Extra and Premium games that come in for a time but are usually eventually taken away, the Essential games are just like how PS Plus games used to be. You redeem them, they stay in your library for as long as you're a PS Plus member, and even if your membership runs out but then you like reactivate it one day, you'll get access to all of those games again. So I always highly recommend that you redeem these games, because even if you don't plan on playing them now, you might one day, and plus it's free games, so who wouldn't want it? Personally, I've played all these games before and I can verify for you, they're all a blast, they're all a great time, and I highly recommend all 3 of them. Now for our last story, this is the big headlining one that most of you probably clicked on this video for. The CMA has blocked the Microsoft Activision deal. So this is coming from the CMA site directly, quote, "Microsoft/Activision deal prevented to protect innovation and choice in cloud gaming. The CMA has prevented Microsoft's proposed purchase of Activision over concerns the deal would alter the future of the fast-growing cloud gaming market, leading to reduced innovation and less choice for UK gamers over the years to come. The final decision to prevent the deal comes after Microsoft's proposed solution failed to effectively address the concerns in the cloud gaming sector outlined in the Competition and Markets Authorities, which is what the CMA is, the abbreviated term, provisional findings published in February. Microsoft entered in a $68.7 billion deal to buy Activision, one of the most popular video games publishers in the world, in January 2022. Oh my gosh, that was in January of last year? Holy. Anyway, the CMA launched an in-depth review of the deal in September 2022, and in February 2023 provisionally found that the merger could make Microsoft even even stronger in cloud gaming, stifling competition in this growing market, end quote. And then it goes on to explain how this acquisition could affect the competition in the cloud gaming scene, and then we scroll down a bit further to the section labeled The Remedy. It explains how the CMA offered Microsoft multiple remedies and solutions that would make the CMA be willing to allow this acquisition to go through. However, apparently Microsoft's solutions weren't sufficient enough, and you best believe that Microsoft was quick to respond to all this. This is coming from Brad Smith on Twitter, quote, "We remain fully committed to our acquisition with Activision Blizzard and will appeal today's determination by the CMA. Here is our statement," and then there was an image attached to it. It says, "We remain fully committed to this acquisition and will appeal. The CMA's decision rejects a pragmatic path to address competition concerns and discourages technology innovation and investment in the United Kingdom. We have already signed contracts to make Activision Blizzard's popular games available on 150 million more devices, and we remain committed to reinforcing these agreements through regulatory remedies. We're especially disappointed that after lengthy deliberations, this decision appears to reflect a flawed understanding of this market and the way the relevant cloud technology actually works." And again, that is from Brad Smith, Vice Chair and President over at Microsoft, end quote. So, yeah, wow. That, I'm not even gonna lie, like, that totally caught me off guard when I first heard about it, because, you know, I could have thought that the CMA was gonna allow the acquisition to go through in the UK, but I guess not. So now this comes down to the EU and the FTC, and now, you know, I've been sitting here saying how I'm like 99.9% sure that this acquisition is gonna go through, and you know what? Even though the CMA just blocked it, I am still 99.9% sure that it's going to go through. You know, Microsoft seems very committed to making this acquisition happen no matter what it takes. So I'm assuming that they're going to talk things out with the CMA. They're probably going to come to some sort of agreement or some sort of solution. And I can only expect the same to be said for the EU and the FTC. You know, this is an acquisition that is important to both Microsoft and Activision. Granted, if it doesn't go through, there's not much that's going to happen. Microsoft is still going to owe Activision roughly $3 billion just for, you know, the time that had to be invested in all of this. So Microsoft, again, that's only like $3 billion though. So, you know, for Microsoft, that's like nothing. So even if it doesn't go through, like, Microsoft wouldn't necessarily be hurting after all of this. Not even close. But Activision, on the other hand, it's a bit more of an interesting story. I mean, sure, Activision is still doing well for itself, and it still has some very popular IPs, but I don't know, after having a big acquisition like this fall through, and I don't know, I feel like things would be a little weird there for a bit, at least between Microsoft and Activision. Not saying that things would be, like, rocky or, you know, hostile by any means, but I'm sure, like, I don't know. I feel like things would be weird there for a bit. You know what I mean? With how much time has been, you know, exhausted into this, and how many people and how much money has been involved. I truly do have trouble seeing a world where this acquisition doesn't go through. But as always, I'll keep you guys updated as soon as we know more. Originally, they wanted to have this whole thing wrapped up by June, but it's possible that we could be talking about this for another year, a couple years maybe. We could honestly still be sitting here talking about this thing by 2025, which, if I'm gonna be honest, I don't even want to think about that. But anyways, that's all the stories I got for you guys this week. Now I definitely want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on everything we talked about? Whether it's the fact that Dead Island is absolutely crushing it in the charts right now, or Miyamoto hinting at future Nintendo IPs and movies? Are you looking forward to Tears of the Kingdom, and will you be picking up Jedi Survivor? And what are your thoughts on the whole CMA blocking the Activision acquisition? That one still threw me off guard. Whatever you're thinking, I'd love to hear from you guys. But anyways, this is Weekly GCap. New episodes go live every single Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, so if you want to catch them as soon as they go live, well then, now you know when to be here. But anyways, that's it for me. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day and an amazing weekend. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.